What's going on, y'all? We back.
You see, it doesn't feel good, right?
What's going on?
It doesn't feel
Why she
good.
laughing?
I don't know.
It's
She
crazy.
does it every time one of us intro.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This
it
is
feels
judgment.
horrible.
It's like silent judgment.
Good.
I
You
thought
finally
I
feel
came in with good energy.
I did too.
I think
know.
I'm just laughing to make it seem like we are coming into the
That's
podcast.
that's the like photo laugh. That's like
Yeah.
just,
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Jesus.
that's the I'm happy.
But it makes you second guess yourself.
It did. I was like, did I fuck up that intro?
Oh, all right, go ahead.
No, we're done. That's
We
the
here.
intro. We here.
This is
That's
the
it. What's
intro?
going on, everybody? This is Can't Afford Therapy podcast, and I am Josh,
I'm SaVon.
I'm Antoinette.
and we are here with another episode of your favorite podcast where we talk about our feelings, and SaVon runs from his.
That's actually a tagline. That's
so
how we should
good.
sell this pod to
That's
advertisers.
how we're gonna sell it.
That's gonna be merch. SaVon, it's gonna be feelings of SaVon running his ass off.
In parentheses, real
I
small,
like
runs
that.
from his.
I kind of like that.
You know that Ricky running?
Oh my God, not the boys in the hood.
Oh man.
How y'all feeling today?
I'm feeling good actually. We can start here with our handy dandy feelings wheel. I'm feeling really curious because our conversations off air, and your friend who has blessed us with his skill set really has my wheels turning on being outdoors. Like I really want to do it. Antoinette doesn't believe me. She thinks I'm full of shit.
For a cabin.
She thinks I'm full of shit. But I think
Can you bring an
baby step.
apartment while we go camping? And
Wait, give them some background. I'm watching The Walking Dead. I'm being insane and wanting to know how to make a friction fire. And so I'm sharing this information. And so we've all decided we're going to go camping together. This is great team building.
I'm in.
It'll be fun.
And SaVon was like, we talking about the type of tent. And he's like, yo, but can we do a cabin? I'm like,
Can we have
bro.
air conditioning?
You got Airbnb?
Private chef?
And he's like, but I really want to be outdoors in the cabin.
Can I get a section?
If it's a log cabin, like, come on.
That's not outdoors. That's still inside,
But
SaVon.
it gives you, like, the feel.
You want to glamp?
Yeah.
You wanna go
just
glamping.
a little bit.
I got you.
SaVon would.
Ain't nothing wrong with
He gonna
glamping.
be asking to take pics for Instagram and shit. Watch.
Facts. Next
Not
to
in
the
the, not
campfire.
in the woods. Not in the woods. I don't even take pictures of myself. But anyway, I'm feeling very curious because I would love to see what we look like in that type of environment.
A
in that
mess.
setting.
Get ready.
I would love
Y'all
to
gonna
see
be
it.
like, ugh.
Yeah, and I really do think we should bring your friend. Lord, forgive me for not
Kurt.
saying it. Kurt, thank you. I think he should help us out
Kurt,
in our journey.
You're going to be our guide, our camping guide?
I feel safe with
You
you,
can talk.
knowing that.
talk?
Yeah, knowing that you do what you do. Like, so again, just
I
give
feel
us
the
some,
exact opposite.
give us some context.
This is the pilot situation all over again. I know him.
That is true. I don't know my pilot, so
Yeah,
I
exactly.
like it this way. I don't know him as well, but yeah,
Well, he
spears
experienced a
fish.
lot of stuff.
And I feel like he knows how to survive, and I would feel really confident in being with all of us together. So I'm curious about that adventure.
I'm down.
I feel excited about this part of our relationship, but I feel very inept and unprepared for the zombie apocalypse that is coming. I'm dead serious. Y'all making fun of me. I'm talking about impending wars, and y'all like, you in Brooklyn, you will be dead. Like, listen, I need to have some skill sets, and I don't have any for survival.
You should watch Preppers. That's what you should watch. Like, you really want to learn a little bit? That's it.
How do you have time to just research all this stuff and watch all? Like, I just am so amazed
I just live
by
my
you.
life. It's just it's a show. It's like on History Channel. It's called Preppers.
Preppers?
Preppers. Yeah, it's like a show with people who truly have the mindset of what you're describing. Like the world might end. I need to build like a silo underground where I can
Like a
put my
commune.
family. Yeah. Who like they get their neighborhoods together in some of the episodes, and like all of them grow their own food.
That's a good.
I think you just got to
Topic.
take me out at that point. You can't have us go backwards,
Yeah.
right? You can't give me electricity and TVs and Wi-Fi, and then one day like, oh shit,
gone.
we don't got it.
Yeah.
Take me with it.
Oh
I'm
my God.
I'm no good. I'm no good.
I respect it.
I am
That's
going to
self-awareness.
hold us back. Like, thankfully, physically, I can handle my own, right? So if you need me to go help you lift some lumber or some shit, I got you. I
Yeah.
can do all that stuff. You need some help on the physical, cool. But once it comes down to like really having to go get the food and build some shit to really survive, I'm gonna hold you back.
If you had a family, you would feel different.
if I had a family, I mean, I would try, but I don't. It's just me. So it's like, all right.
You're not alone in that. Mad people are like that. Like that.
If it like in real life got to it, like in real life, if we really was like looking like, yo, bro, we don't have any of this. Yeah, nah, I ain't got it.
Adapt or die. That's all it is. Yeah. Here's the thing, though, is that the idea of the end of the world, you know, it's funny, what we're talking about is going to somehow feed into what it is I want to talk about today. But I do want to say, the idea of the end of the world or like some kind of apocalyptic or catastrophic thing happening, before you even start to have to trying to figure out fire and food, people are going to start killing each other. Like legitimately, like before you ever get, because people are gonna raid the grocery stores. The first thing that's gonna happen is everybody's gonna go for the most precious resources,
toilet paper.
Yeah, and if you can't become a really ruthless person, either that or get out of Dodge. That's what they say. Like get away from the population, get away from people as fast as possible. Take the people. But if you can't do that, then you just better be ready to be ruthless. Y'all got guns?
Yeah,
that breaks my heart. And little itty bitty pieces.
That's the most important. You want survival? Like you want to be able to survive?
I see Rick.
Get the guns.
Rick is holding it down. He had to turn himself into a murderer to keep his people safe.
I got my permits. I got my guns.
Josh is ready.
I legally got a couple of them joints. If it come down to it. So that's what you should. You want to go practice them. Go to a shooting range.
I went to a shooting range and I shot and then I cried. And I went outside and sat outside and wept.
The world ends.
You ain't ready for
the world ends. You just gotta phone it in.
I said I feel inept.
You ain't ready for nothing.
No, dead ass. Yeah. I don't know why, but one of my girlfriends had for her birthday like a whole self-defense weekend. I don't know what type time she was on. I know, but it was just like really strange and out of nowhere. Like we had like self-defense classes. We went to a gun range. Like it was a whole thing.
Not doing karate for a birthday.
Yeah, it was a birthday party like that. But after the gun, I shot the gun and then I looked and I saw the like cutout of the person and then it came and I had hit it a whole bunch of times, not in the head, but I hit it like chest shots. And I just started, and they passed me this stupid paper with all these holes in it.
To admire your handiwork.
And I fucking started crying. I was like, I have to get out of here. And I just like, it came over me. I was so upset. Like, why are we practicing this? Why is this? And why aren't we... Why are we talking about how to build the commune?
How did your friends react? I know your friends was like, this motherfucker.
You better pray and hope that apocalypse don't happen.
You worried about making fires.
No, I got to be partnered with somebody who who can hold it down.
First off, someone hold it down and put a couple in someone's chest and you start crying, I'm going to be like, I can't do this.
At that point, I'm not going to do that. But I'm going to be like, babe, this is the right mushroom to eat. Okay. And I know how to make this friction fire.
You can provide value in other ways.
That's what I'm saying. In other ways.
Can you dress? You think you could dress like, let's say...
I can fight.
I could fight, but shoot at somebody. I could shoot a zombie, not a person.
Let's say if you have a partner, they go bow hunting, they get a white-tailed deer. Can you dress the deer?
What does that mean? Like, yeah, if I learn, what does that mean? Take the skin off and stuff?
Do you have the gumption to do it, the stomach to do it? Like, would you be able to like... Basically, the first thing you do to a whitetail when you dress it is you literally have to pull out its butthole. The first thing.
Again, how the fuck do you know this information? Josh?
I've done it.
All right.
I'm gonna save my commentary. I'm just saying, I'm gonna save my commentary. Yeah, but
that's crazy. Getting penalized for living life is wild. Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm impressed.
No, I'm impressed, but I'm just like the lives you've lived.
Anyway. It's interesting that we're going onto this topic of like curiosity and kind of becoming cultured in cultures outside of things that we're used to.
How do you feel?
How do I feel? I feel really eager to talk about this particular topic. It's something I'm personally passionate about, and I really wanted to talk about it because I think that it lends to an ability to adapt and an ability to understand yourself and to do work on yourself and to realize where maybe you had some deficits. And the topic is traveling. Traveling, going to other places, traveling solo, more specifically. I'm not sure how much of that either of you guys have done, like solo travel. I think most people, for the most part, if you've been privileged enough to do so, have done like group trips, have done things where like you go with your friends and you take either a day trip or you get on a plane and go on vacation in a tropical place. But not a lot of people, I think, have taken the like leap of faith to like get on a plane by themselves and go travel in like another part of the world and
Yeah.
like have to figure out what to do when you're in that situation. And I think doing that has been done a huge service for me. So I wanted to talk about that. And before we kind of dive deeper into that, I want to ask you guys, like, how much traveling have you guys done, and how does that inform who you are today?
I'll start. And so I've done a lot of travel, but a lot of it's been predicated on work, right? So cities, in and out of cities very quickly. I started traveling later on, like so my late 20s until I actually got a little bit of money to be able to afford it. So I haven't really traveled in the ways that I would like to, that I'll see myself traveling as I get older. But I haven't, and then all of my traveling has pretty much been domestic, right? I think I've left the country. I went to Puerto Rico, which is still United States soil, and Canada, and I've been to Mexico, right? And it's all been vacation. It's all been, Cancun, cool spots, whatever. It hasn't really been any reflection in my traveling. It's more so an escape.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am curious to walk through this conversation because the first thing that came up for me when you said traveling and traveling alone and, Instagram and just the internet in general has made the world a lot smaller, so I can see all these beautiful places like New Zealand and Australia, and you just see it in a lot more of a intimate way compared to just the Discovery Channel or some shit like that, right? Like you can actually see some of these places. And for me, I've always, and I think I spoke about this before, but traveling while Black is a thing for me, where there's like 70% of the world I don't feel comfortable going to because I'm a Black man.
Yeah.
Like legit. And I don't know how true that is to what the experience of somebody who is a young Black person and traveling alone. I don't know what that's like. But for me, I've always been a lot more reserved because of that fact. So I'm hoping to unlock that as I grow a little bit older to feel comfortable and confident enough to step out into like a Thailand and just explore and not have to worry about whatever prejudices that are against me in that way.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. Like depending on where you travel, that you can definitely be prejudged.
Yeah.
Like anywhere, you know what I mean?
Like for some reason, like a Germany or Ireland. I would love to go. They shot a lot of Game of Thrones in Ireland.
It's beautiful.
It looks like a beautiful country. And I don't feel like I would be comfortable just going to Ireland and trying to explore and indulge in the culture. I just don't.
I don't know enough about Ireland. I know Germany, you'd be all right.
Yeah, Germany has a lot of Black and brown folks.
Cool.
You move a little further out of there, you can run into issues depending on what you want to do in those places, like in Prague, like in certain areas toward more of the Eastern blocks. Like nightlife might be a little tougher because some of those places won't let you in.
Yeah.
Like if you look or you're wearing a certain,
I believe it.
100%.
So, for me, I've closed my mind off to a lot of the world, unfortunately, because of that.
Yeah. No, that's makes me sad.
Yeah.
But also it's a reality, and I want to talk about that a bit more.
I've traveled a bit. I used to take a big trip every year and try to spend New Year's out of the country, and usually on a continent, usually in Africa. And some of group trips, but I've been to I went to Bali alone. I went to Australia alone. I went to Costa Rica alone. And then for part of Ghana, I was there alone. In Morocco, I was in Morocco alone. And solo female traveler is always on my mind of okay. But I'm hyper aware of my surroundings and things, but I love to travel. I love to explore. And I love to travel in a way that that feels really authentic to where I'm going. So I really try to take advantage of smaller experiences within that, someone could host me from that country, even if I'm staying somewhere else, but my daily activities are with a local guide. So I can really get the culture. I tend to shy away from those pay this amount of money and we're going to go together on a group trip, because I find that, like, you're held up at this hotel and you're just getting an Americanized version of wherever you're at.
like a bubble.
Yeah. And I'm in the process now of planning a trip for the end of the year, because I don't want to be here. I want to like reset somewhere else. And I'm thinking about either Thailand or it's like the four borders in Africa. It's like through like I think it's the Nile, but it separates, and the river separates Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. And so it's really easy for you to explore all of those different places.
Yeah.
And so I'm very much like, I understand you. I have no interest yet. Not no, but I don't have a lot of interest in Europe right now. I'm so interested about the continent, mostly because I feel safer there.
Yeah.
And I feel this is because of colonization, but your money goes longer, so it's a little bit more affordable for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the stuff that I'm interested in, I just feel like it's there. You know, I went to Australia, it was dope, but it felt like Sydney felt like New York. I was like, well, this just is New York with some different accents and food, and like, okay, cool.
It's
and like,
Western.
It's very Western culture. And so I'm so much, my favorite trip of my life was Bali, by far. Yeah. Bali was amazing. South Africa is really amazing. I'd like to go back to Durban. I didn't get to go to Durban, but yeah, I love to travel, and I love to immerse myself in like the other possibilities that exist. So, but the solo part I think is sometimes really important, because again, you can get that introspection and you can move as you feel. You can go and just like meander and explore, and there's something about that I don't have in my daily life that like I would take full advantage of when I'm out and about. But I also think it's out of necessity too, because don't nobody want to go to these places with me. So I'm just like, all right, well, I'm out.
Yeah. There's something I learned about travel in general is that, one, when you're not traveling alone, it'll really test that friendship or that relationship.
Oh God, you can't travel with everybody.
Yeah. And but also sometimes it does you a service, not necessarily that person can't be your friend, or it's just that you learn that you guys live different and you learn about that person through travel. And sometimes, unfortunately, if that happens on the other side of the planet, it's fucked up.
Cabin versus tent.
Yeah, exactly. But what I also realized is that traveling, when you leave the country, there's this, happens with me at least. I remember the first time I ever left the country, first time ever, I was an adult, and it was to South Africa.
Wow.
And that's a long fucking flight, right? So like I remember.
Where did you go? You went straight?
I went, no, we stopped off in Dakar.
Okay.
So it was a flight to Dakar, and then connecting flight to, actually we didn't even connect. We just refueled and then went right back down to Johannesburg. So that was my first flight. It was for work. So my first flight out of the country was to South Africa. And it was an extremely luxurious trip, because I was on the dime of very, big business. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Kind of like I think I was staying at the Four Seasons, and it was like this beautiful hotel. And I was
in Joburg.
In Joburg,
I went there. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I didn't stay there, but I had like the food there.
It's amazing. Where it overlooks the entire thing. Yeah,
stunning.
And my room was next to that, so like my room, it was insane. And then on top of that, you get around in like golf carts that are provided, and like because the entire hotel is like these series of villas that you have to like go up these hills. But the point is that this experience taught me that there was so much more to the world.
Yeah.
That there was so much more. And it's not even about the wealth of the experience in terms of what that cost and whether I can afford that. It was just, it expanded my horizons in a way that made me realize New York, and I'm a New York City kid, right? I'm like, that New York City is not necessarily the pinnacle of all that is culture.
No.
And that there's so much more. And this is, I think, 19-year-old me, 20-year-old me, like really young Josh. And from that moment on, I never stopped traveling. Like I was like, I'm gonna go to different countries all the time, and I did. I've traveled to so many countries, both solo and with friends, and for work. And I made it like a thing. Like for work, I used to look out for jobs that would be for travel. I'm good at traveling. I don't need a lot. I pack a bag, you know, and I'm in. Or I could work for cheaper. I'll work for cheaper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just so I can get on a plane. But then you start to get kind of like tired of that shit. You're like, all right, I'm kind of over it. But the traveling, what I realize is that it really opens your mind to recognize that other people exist in different ways. There's traditions that exist in different ways. You learn that being like a child of an immigrant, but you know that there are traditions that exist outside of your own, but you don't really feel it until you are just immersed in someone else's world and their own culture and their own space. And that traveling has been super important. I have so many anecdotes that I want to share and that I will share for this episode, but that's been super important to me. And I guess what I want to ask you guys is, do you guys have any specific situations or any moments when you were traveling that you were like, oh man, this has changed the way I look at like my worldview just because I'm not in the environment that I normally would find myself in?
I think not necessarily because I was in any different part of the world, but it kind of happened really fast for me. So the first 25 years, 26 maybe years of my life, I had gotten on a plane twice, right? I didn't really go anywhere. The first time I got on a plane, I was maybe 2 or 3 years old, so I don't have any recollection of it. And then the second time, I was maybe 9 or 10, and again, no true recollection of what that was. I just knew, oh, we're taking a family trip, and that was it. So from about 9 years old to about 25, 26, I didn't fly at all. Anywhere, like I drove to Florida on a family vacation. We didn't have the funds to all get on the plane.
Yeah.
So we took a 16-hour trip to South Florida in a van. And anywhere else that I had to go, it was in a drivable distance, right? So I had never been out west up until I was 26, 27-ish, and I had never been anywhere truly south other than Florida and driving through it.
Yeah.
But I think when I did start traveling, and because the uptick was so fast and it happened so abruptly, it was for traveling for tour, right? And so you would fly into Dallas, and then we would fly over to Austin, then drive to Houston, and then be back in New York within 72 hours.
Yeah.
And for what that did for me was show me how small the world, or this country at least, really is. I'm like, wait, I was able to hit all these major cities and just get up on a plane, and like it just shrunk life for me.
So much more accessible.
It just shrunk everything for me. So then when I went to Cancun, or when I go to Puerto Rico or Toronto, and again, Toronto's not that far, but the culture and the environment and just the nuances of knowing like, oh, wait, this isn't hard and it's really not that far. And then it made me feel bad because I have family members who are way older than me who have never seen Los Angeles or can't even fathom, like Los Angeles to them might as well be another country. It might as well be China.
Yeah.
You know, and for us, it's like, oh shit, I gotta go to LA for work real quick. I'll be in, I'll go in one night and I'm right back. Like you get familiar with the culture of a Los Angeles, of a Dallas, whatever city it is that you frequent. So for me, it just made me see how small this country in particular is. Again, like I said, I haven't really explored traveling outside of the country too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what it did for me.
What was the question?
Basically, like a moment or what traveling in terms of how it kind of changed your perspective, your worldview.
Yeah, I think when I went to Bali, I was very taken aback by the way the people just operated. It left a very lasting impression on how intentional they are, and how everything is rooted in like service and acts of service, and those acts of service should be at the highest level possible because it's we're reflections of God. Like that's how it was explained to me, and how the presence of God and the acknowledgement of God is in everything that they do, from the way they prepare their food. It looks like artwork, to the offerings that you'll find all over the grounds. Every morning there's an offering to God in front of their home, in front of their business, in the evening and in the afternoon. Everything's rooted in that. And then also just being in like the rice paddies and seeing the earth in that way, not buildings that man-made structures that are like, oh, okay. I don't get like turned on is not the right word, but I don't get excited about, but it's like more than excitement, like energized, invigorated by like the New York City skyline. I don't.
Yeah.
I see it and I'm like, yeah, any skyline, not just New York. I'm just like, okay, buildings,
Chicago.
Cool. But like, and it's Philly, anything. But when I see those rice patties and I see like, holy shit, all of this makes sense so that we can eat, so that like there's rationale for why there's so much water, you know, that is, it's just it blows your mind when you see what God is capable of. When I really want to go to Sedona, like when I see like Antelope Canyon, I'm like, what? How is that a real thing? It feels like out of this world.
Like in awe of the way that.
And so it's reminds me of like how spectacular and miraculous so much of this earth is. And I think that I lose so much sight of that just being a city girl.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I get it from like just me going upstate for a hike. It's like, yeah, it's pretty. But it still feels very common. It's something about when I imagine seeing the pyramids or just looking out and seeing those like, what is it? Those salt. It's in Egypt. It's like these like salt kind of, these
salt deposits?
There's salt deposits, but it's water.
Okay.
And so there's so much salt in the water that you can only float, but it's completely clear.
Oh, okay.
And like absolutely stunning. Like the thought of swimming in the Red Sea.
Yeah.
Or the riding down the Nile River is like, what? Yeah. That blows my mind. And so there is an accessibility about it. And like seeing Ireland the way you talked about, like this is gorgeous and we didn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, like Central Park, very pretty. We did it. You see what I'm saying? Like there's something about seeing just how the earth has responded to itself and to us, and it's miraculous.
And it informs the way that we interact with the world around us, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that because you ever go to Times Square and you're walking behind a tourist? I avoid
it like the plague.
But you know when you're there and you're behind a tourist and they're like, and you're like,
and
motherfucker,
so
just
annoyed.
walk. Just walk,
so
bro.
annoyed. Like, oh my God.
Like it's a fucking building.
Yeah.
But you don't realize this person might like live in a more remote place.
Idaho.
And they come here and they're like, this is fucking awesome. Like awesome in the word, not in the colloquial. Like it is awe-inspiring to see what people have done. And
I don't know why I'm not inspired by what people have done.
So here's the thing, and here's what's crazy to me, is that traveling has helped me shift my perspective.
Yeah.
Because before I felt very similar, where I'd be like, yeah, it's the city, it fucking stinks. Like I look at my hand, I'm like piss and pigeons. That's all I think about. But when I travel enough and I see this contrast, and I'm like, nature is awe-inspiring. But people just showed up to a place like this and made a city. Yeah. Holy shit. You know, like that's fucking great. Like imagine just us three.
I need to go to Tokyo for that.
I mean, that's a city that can probably do it because it's just like a tech city.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just traveling gives you perspective. It gives you perspective and understanding your place in the world. And I think you said something that spoke to me is that you know people that are like in their elder ages that have not left the block, that have not left their area code, that have not left their city, and that the closest they've gone to a vacation is like hitting the Sizzler. You feel me? Like, and when you see those kind of situations, there's a sadness you feel because you're like, yo, there's so much more to the world and so much that can change you.
There's guilt for me. There's a lot of guilt that I carry.
That's interesting.
Knowing that the people who, my village, which I always refer to my family as my village, a lot of them haven't explored outside of their communities. Like, I know I have grandparents who legit were born in the area and still live in that area and really don't have a desire, whether it be out of fear or comfort or for what? What's the reason? Why would I wake up and just move my life? This is all I know. This is where I'm at, you know? And we didn't have the funds or the ability to do those kind of things. They couldn't do it, you know? So like my grandfather, he always takes me and picks me up from the airport. He's like big on, I don't want you spending money, not taking the Ubers. So like he'll wake up, it doesn't matter the time, the day, the short notice. Yo, Pop, I gotta catch a flight. can you take me? Of course. And he's up before me. Like,
Gramps
so
is clutch.
always
Pop is clutch.
legit.
That's what's
legit.
up.
And like, that's kind of our thing. Because I don't have a lot of time to just come over and kick it. So that's when we can kick it, when you take me to the airport. And I appreciate it. But just to see how happy he is and excited to know, oh shit, my grandson just went to Vegas and then he went to LA. Now he's back over here. He's bragging, and it's also a sense of pride, and like he's living through me in a sense, because you see it on TV and you hear about it, and we associate those type of movements with success and, you know, just not being afraid. And I think they have a sense of pride of how adaptable we are and how, you know, mobile we are. Like, that wasn't a thing for them, right? They had to go to travel agents to like book a flight.
But it's also, not to cut you, it's also through his work and his legacy, he's made this available
on the
to
back.
you.
Exactly. And to some degree, he probably feels like, why would I ever do it? Or he's maybe too afraid to go that far west. Like, oh, that's a whole different country to them, you know, just the LA culture, right? The houses, how they speak, the food, the music. The way he speaks about it is as if he could never go.
Like it's completely foreign.
It's completely foreign.
You know, another thing to think about, just historically, people who traveled were explorers. They were the outliers. They were the people who had tremendous bravery and maybe had a couple screws loose. Because if you think before, like big civilizations, like you're gonna get on a boat, and you're just gonna start looking for shit.
That is
like
crazy.
That's fucking crazy. You know what I mean?
Insane,
like they say, like the Tongans, like the Samoans, the people that derive from the Pacific Islanders, like they were just motherfuckers that were like, let's hop in this boat, and they just found some islands. They're like, this is where we live now. Like like, you know, there's a special kind of person, and I think that our elders associate that. They're like, that's brave. Wow, you're gonna like when I would travel, and I've took several backpacking trips, both solo and with friends, and my grandmother would be like, you got to be careful. You don't know what could happen. My dad would be like, yo, you like check in with me, make sure I know where you are, you know? And it's because there's this idea that going outside of the safety of your community and your bubble, especially when you're a person of color, a minority, you grow up in a place that like you become comfortable with the dangers that you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But the mystery of the world around you, it's scarier because you don't understand it. And I think one of the most profound things travel has ever done for me is made me realize how closed-minded I was.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's a mirror.
For sure.
Going into these, like immersing yourself in, so Morocco, you said you solo tripped to Morocco. Morocco was, I took a solo trip there and I spent New Year's there.
I struggled in Morocco.
I did not. I loved Morocco.
Where did you go?
I was in Marrakesh.
I was in Casablanca.
That makes sense.
Very different.
Very
place.
business city. It's like going to like New York, but Morocco. Like it's very.
Yeah. It ain't New York.
No.
And it's not as, I guess I would say.
Not as old, not as rich.
Not as developed either. And just, I don't speak the language.
Yeah.
I was in there for Christmas. I struggled. Like I had so many very scary run-ins.
Did you?
That I was like, I got to get out of here.
So, and I feel bad about to talk about my overwhelmingly positive experience.
Well, Marrakesh is a completely
very
different
city.
And it's a very it's a city where more tourists go
100%.
and explore. And my dumb ass was like, I want to get the real thing. Yeah. Stupid.
Well, Marrakesh is also a more, I think, it's still an ancient city.
Yes.
While Casablanca is it's a more developed city. It's business. There's a lot of like headquarters to corporate companies there, and Marrakesh I think still houses the like royal family, and the palace is still there. You can still go to like the souks there. They're like really ancient feeling, and they haven't changed a lot. But then you can right outside of there is the Atlas Mountains, and you can go with the Berber people, and you can ingratiate yourself in that culture. But like Marrakesh was an awesome trip for me because I got really lucky and I booked an Airbnb experience, and I ended up making friends with a private chef.
They're so good, those Airbnb experiences.
It changed
your whole
my
trip.
whole experience.
Yeah. It's really good.
I became like buddies with this guy
to this day. That Airbnb experience, like what's the difference between it just renting Airbnb and like the Airbnb experience?
So the experience is where you can look up you can get lodging, right? And then you can click experience, and they have a list of like If you want to go, if you want a local person to take you on a tour, if you want a cooking class with somebody's auntie, if you want, like, whatever it is, do you want to learn how to be a seamstress and make the clothing? Yeah.
See, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I've been in Airbnbs for quite some time. I didn't even know that was a thing.
It's fire. It's I booked
toggle to the experience part.
Yeah, you just go into the experience tab. And
you could do that in New York. Really cool experiences here. Like, it's a great date tool, just so you know.
Giving you game.
Appreciate that.
You on.
But I for when I was in Marrakesh, I booked a class to learn how to make tagine. And
what's that?
Tagine is like a traditional Moroccan dish cooked inside a tagine, which is like a cone shaped, a dish cooked over either coal or open fire, and it's chicken, cauliflower, carrots, et cetera, et cetera. So I took this class, and it was like 2 other people, very small, and it was this guy who was local, and he took us to the market. We went grocery shopping. We picked the food. Like, it was really just tactile and such a good experience. But the point is, the guy had spent some time in Boston. Me and him connected on that because I was from New York, and he was like, "Why don't we hang out?" So we went and got drinks after, and we went to this bar, and he was like, "Let's hang out tomorrow." I was like, I'm down. So I took his number down. We were chatting on WhatsApp, and I hung out with him almost every day of the trip. And he took me to completely different things every time I hung out with him. And he recommended me to like other people. I ended up, I had like a real estate meeting out there because I was like, I might get an Airbnb. He introduced me to this other chef of this restaurant who drove me about 2.5 hours outside of Marrakesh to their country house and cooked me an amazing breakfast. Like, I had a phenomenal experience. But this has been my experience usually when I travel solo because I'm willing to take risk. And that's what I've learned.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm doing that 2-hour drive. Might have killed you.
I can talk more about that. I could talk more about that because it's funny that you say that I, in all other circumstances, I have PTSD. Like, I have a hard time trusting, and I'm always like really hyper vigilant. There's something about travel that frees me from that. That makes me feel like, one,
it's America, bro.
Yes. 100%.
I do agree with that. There is something 100%. Where I feel freed up to explore a little more.
But don't get me wrong. I was in the back seat of this car while these 2 guys were in the front, and they were speaking Arabic. I fucking know. I was like, and this was at a time, and I don't want to go into this conversation kind of like, I have my bias. I'm from New York City. I have my biases that exist, but I also have some of my closest friends are Arabic. So there's that kind of works with what my discriminatory brain would want to feel. But it was worth it. And I'm glad I went against that because when I arrived there, it was breathtaking. It was beautiful. I had the most amazing breakfast. I met the sweetest people that are friends with me to this day. And I've taken those risks in over 20 plus countries where I'm just like, fuck it. Right? Like, I'm whatever. I mean, if I die, at least I'm dying doing some cool shit. Like, and that's how I rationalize things now. I used to be like, better than dying in the projects, better than dying in Coney Island. Like, if I'm going to take a risk, I'm going to do it in a way where I'm living my life as full as possible. And I think traveling has taught me the parts of myself that I never knew existed until I had to put myself in a position where I had to be uncomfortable. That uncomfortable enough to be like, I have no choice, or this is gonna be a wasted trip. I'm gonna be bored. Am I gonna hang out in my Airbnb by myself?
Yeah.
I
haven't gotten to that point in my travels yet. Like, I just haven't. Like, I'm still in the rat race. I still haven't really detached from, okay, if I'm gonna travel for the most part. Like, the last time that I may have only taken a trip to not work twice. Any other time I've been on a plane has been associated with getting some type of work done, taking some type of meeting. It could be, I got to go to LA. Let me stop in Vegas real quick to meet with whoever I got to meet, have this conversation, have a dinner, and then fly to LA and then come right back. Like, I have not traveled for enjoyment outside of 2 or 3 times. I can't even say a handful because it was less than that.
Why?
Right? I haven't been able to rationalize taking the time, the cost, and there's all excuses. Like, I don't think any of this is a real legit reason as to why I haven't. I think there's a little bit of fear in that. And again, I'm plugged in. Like I'm in the matrix, bro. You know, like when it comes to trying to just get out of my financial place situation, right? Like I said, the guilt that is associated with me traveling and knowing my family hasn't been able to, right? And the fact that I have the luxury of being able to do it at my leisure, something just hasn't sat right with me where I'm able to selfishly disconnect in that way.
That's so interesting.
So when I do get on a plane, I need it to almost benefit me in some type of way.
It needs to be with purpose outside of self-care.
Yeah.
Or personal experience.
Like
I wonder what would happen if you took the time to do this and how much more you could offer all of the things that you are doing.
I don't know.
I thought about the same fucking thing.
I wish, honestly, like
you might step to these mics with like a whole other level unlocked.
For sure.
And I agree. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
go mode. Like I'm even more in go mode because, you know.
There's a lot of topics that we have where I give y'all some pushback. I am fully embracing everything y'all are saying because I know I need to disconnect. I need to learn how at some point, but I'm plugged. It's bad.
I think you don't have to judge it. I think it's your survival mechanism, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I feel like that you're looking at this as a luxury instead of something, an investment in yourself, like a true investment, especially if you're going somewhere with the idea of I'm going here intentionally to learn X or to explore this, and just the practice of that. I think for you, of the practice of one, investing in yourself when you can't quantify what you're going to receive. Like it's not like a product where you like, oh, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna get this meeting and I know this is might turn into some dollars.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh no, I'm gonna book this trip to Ireland, or I'm gonna book this trip to Egypt, wherever, or Costa Rica, wherever you want to go, and say, I don't know if I'm gonna get anything from it, but I'm gonna go.
That's just a bad investment.
No.
You get what I'm saying? Like, for me,
I don't think
the practice of doing it, and I don't think there's any way that you won't get something from it. Honestly, truly.
I agree.
You will always get
but that's
something
the
from
thing.
it.
He doesn't feel that way yet. So he, in his mind, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to get something from it. It's not worth it.
It's just not monetary.
It's not even that I don't know. I can't afford, in my head, I can't afford not to.
You can know.
I can't afford to take this trip and
you
come back.
You realize that this is capitalism at its best,
oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm with you. I'm all with you. Like, I am 1,000%
Why
with you.
Why can't you afford it, though?
Because I can't afford to disconnect from what I'm trying to quote unquote build. Or
may I ask you a question?
I just like,
when you stopped recording Need to Know, right? You stopped for how long?
About 3 months. Yeah, 3 months, 4 months.
And then when you came back, in my humble opinion, you came back
recharged,
10 times stronger,
re-energized,
far more reach,
absolutely,
far more like much more strategic,
for sure.
Polished, everything leveled up.
Yeah.
You were terrified to take that break.
You were. Yeah.
Not a little bit, a lot of it. You talked about it.
Well, I was terrified because I didn't know if it was going to be a break. I didn't at that point.
But you also kept saying, I don't know, like at this point,
I don't know if I'm going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Right, but will people still be there? Will this, like all of that stuff?
Yeah, those variables.
And they were tenfold.
They're going to be there.
That's true.
If you took 7 days, 5 days, 4 days to go somewhere and invest in yourself and sit with yourself, sit with the tiger, or not, or don't sit with the tiger. Just go and run around in the fucking zoo.
Yeah.
Have a blast.
Yeah.
And you have to listen to the previous episodes to know what the hell we're talking about, okay?
Or the next.
If you don't know, then that's on you. We'll have to drop them in order.
Yeah.
Re-record it. But I think that you would come back to this mic with just lived experience.
100%.
And to need to know, and to your business dealings of that it has, my travels have impacted so much of what I do at work, at my 9 to 5, within my personal life. It changes you exponentially.
Yeah.
And also makes you more hip. I'm able to identify things a little more and communicate a little better and maybe be a little less judgmental, just as a better person.
Yeah.
Truly. So it's an investment.
Yeah.
And I'm not preaching the, go and like the self-care. Like it doesn't have to even be that where I'm going to go journal and do a yoga retreat kind of thing. But just go and interact with people and get in touch with humanity. There's no way that doesn't do something to you.
That honestly, if you're solo tripping, that's the hardest part. The hardest part is when you get there trying to figure out what to do.
Well, the tools that you can utilize, I think, are the Airbnb experiences.
100%. I love that.
They're definitely, I love a good YouTube where if I'm looking up a place and want to know, I'm on YouTube watching what other people did, writing it down, researching for myself. And I go with a loose itinerary. It ain't that loose. You know me.
Yeah. But I was about to say, why you're lying?
An itinerary, but sometimes it shifts depending on what happens and like whatever connections I make. So it's just, they're just like you said, there's so much more accessibility. The world, it's funny how we say the world is smaller. I think it opens up the world. It's much larger to me. The more I travel, I'm like, this place is huge.
Yeah.
This place is vast.
Yes.
There are so many different,
But that's because you traveled the world. I haven't. I traveled the United States and North America. So for me, the furthest I've flown was 6.5 hours to LA, something like that.
The world is smaller in accessibility, but larger in possibility.
Got it.
Right? Like that's how it affected me.
Get
Like,
out of America, SaVon.
No, I want to.
I can't wait.
I just
that's
haven't.
it. Can't afford therapy trip.
I haven't found the
I'm down.
rational.
Let's backpack.
I haven't been able to rational. Like I just haven't.
So if we did a trip, if we was like, no, we're gonna do a trip.
With it. I'm very open to things. I really am. Like if we do it, it's a sense of community too. I won't do it on my own because I'm not going to take the chance.
That's the most valuable part.
You
got to break the goose egg, though.
The first time, though, the first time out of the country, you don't have to go alone.
I'm so down with fucking kayaking, skydiving, scuba diving. I'm with all the shits. Like when I did go to Mexico, I did like this fucking excursion where we was in caves, all type of shit. Now, again, it was a tourist. Like I didn't just go and grab my own shit and do it. Yeah. But I'm more than open to doing it. I just haven't rationalized it in my head. Like, damn, if I take this trip, I'm potentially missing out on X, Y, and Z.
You got to reframe.
Monetize, like that's.
I think Ghana. I think South Africa for you. I think
whatever.
I'm down. I think Bali might turn you out, but I'm not coming back. This shit is amazing.
I have no idea. I've never been, but I'm open to it. I'm not against it at all. This is not one of those things where I'm giving.
I don't think you are. I'm excited for you. We should figure it out. And for anybody listening. And also anybody listening who doesn't have the means, because travel is not cheap.
And that's another thing. That's the other thing.
But it can be
so
affordable.
Long to get to a point of
travel's not cheap, but it can be affordable.
Depending on how you do it.
It can be affordable. I took a backpacking trip and I was gone for 3 months and I did some things that were superfluous.
Yeah.
But I like if I take out the luxury things I decided to do, my trip probably cost me less than $2,000. If I took out the expensive things that I chose to do, like I could have
for 3 months. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you could stay at a cheap Airbnb. You share a room. You can an Airbnb experience. I mean, I booked a photo tour by myself where I only booked a photo tour to talk to the photographer because he was local. And then I met that photographer. He told me to go to a salsa club. He was like, this one's fire. It's all locals. I was like, word. Went to the salsa club, danced, met people there, met them the next day. You know what I'm saying? Like you all you need is one thing to trigger meeting more. I was in Lisbon in Portugal and I didn't even have any experiences set. I landed at night. I went to this like food market. I seen a bunch of people sitting at the table. I was like, hey, is the seat open? I sat next to them and they were just interested in my tattoos and started a conversation. And I was like, oh yeah, I got this. I'm from New York. I got this. And then they were my friends now. You know what I mean?
What country was this?
This is in Portugal.
Portugal. Okay.
So travel can be so much more accessible and affordable than people tend to think. I think that the mystery of it is scary. And that's like I think the fear of traveling is the bigger barrier of entry than the cost of traveling. And I know I say that from a place of privilege. Like I'm super aware of that fact, but I also was traveling when I was broke. Like when I didn't have as much money and maybe my priorities were a little fucked up, but I now have those stories and I have those experiences. And every time I've booked a trip, I literally said this is going to be fun. This is going to be an experience. I can talk about this. Yeah. It makes me a more interesting person. I'll know things that I mean, I get on this fucking show all the time, and y'all constantly am poking fun at me because I know shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
I'm just projecting onto you because I want to know. That's all it is.
but it's because I take risks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And travel has allowed me to do that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important. It's
I will
really
say,
important.
I think this would be a great episode to kind of piggyback off of with like a guest, right? Because I would love to. And another reason why I have, which I mentioned at the top of the episode, is like I stick out like a sore thumb if I'm in a place where I shouldn't be, but people don't see people that look like me.
I
Tall, black. And I'm not even like just different.
Depends
just
on where you are.
Depending on
Some
where
places
I am.
you'll blend right
in some places
Morocco,
I would.
you'll look Moroccan.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
right? But then there's the culture shock. I don't know the language. So I think about all these variables. And again, I'm not saying that this is just, right? This should not hold me back.
Don't overthink it, my
This
brother.
should not hold me back, but it does.
I don't want to invalidate what you're saying. I think, though, that to the narrative that we've been fed, the same narrative of how Black folks stick out here in America in certain places is not what folks experience when they travel.
Yeah.
Got it.
There's so many. The fact that when you said Germany, it was very interesting to me because I'm like, there's a lot of Black and brown people in Germany, a lot.
And they almost
So-
all speak English.
And most places speak English, which again, colonization is tricky.
Most countries you go to, they'll speak English.
Right. I haven't.
For the most part.
Right.
Some, yeah.
So, I mean, it's also about being strategic where you go. You don't have to go to Europe if you don't want to. You can go to the continent and people gonna speak English, especially West Africa, South Africa, like Bali. Everybody spoke English, child.
Yeah.
I was like, how y'all speak?
Yeah, Africa, almost everyone's gonna speak English because that's like the
They speak so many languages.
Yeah.
I'm
But
I'm game.
I don't want you to think that traveling while Black is a thing, traveling while woman is a thing, like all of it's a thing. But there's a lot of Black folks that feel a lot safer and better while traveling in other countries than here. Like
I can see
I
that.
know
Yeah,
people
yeah,
who are like,
yeah.
I'd rather
Yeah.
go out the country than go down south in certain places.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can 100% see that.
For
There's
sure.
an interesting kind of aspect of that though. Like I don't feel comfortable traveling to countries that I know that people look like me too much. Like I wouldn't want to travel to Honduras or
Why?
like I'm heavily tattooed Hispanic man traveling
yes,
in these
yeah.
countries where gangs are like, you know, like I will not travel to like Nicaragua. I will not travel to like, you know, I've been in some really rough parts of Mexico that I probably shouldn't have went to. And I know the reality. And here's the thing, like,
You're
I know
not even Mexican, right? Are you Mexican?
no, no, I'm not any of those things that I just described.
Yeah.
But you can be like, are you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of countries that I just won't go to because I am heavily tattooed, because I do look like the demographic in that country. And I almost prefer it when I stick out because at least people are like, okay, they're not involved in some bullshit here. You know what I mean? And I find that as my experience that it's helped me. Now I say that as someone I'm not like a dark skinned Black man that's walking around some of these that where will be a different kind of perception of what I may be bringing. But I know that for the most part, it's either been a conversation starter, like you don't look like you're from around here. I want to talk to you. Or people just fucking avoid me, which is even better. In a certain, like in Morocco, people look at me and they're like, this motherfucker looks a little intimidating. I'm not talking to him. And all I had to learn was le. That was the only word I knew, which was no. No. Leave me, le. No. Leave me alone. You know?
Got it.
So like it can work to your advantage.
Got it.
Yeah,
You
you
know?
just have to be strategic. And you know,
I'm open to it.
It's not lost on me that I keep mentioning Bali, and Bali is not kind to the LGBTQIA community in any way, and they've gotten worse since I've been there. So you have to be strategic, but I don't want our preconceived notions about places to stop us from, you know, reaching out and exploring other cultures and like kind of bridging that gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you'd be surprised about how people value Americans when they go places that makes me uncomfortable.
I was going to say that too.
Where I'm like, oh, the privilege that we have is disgusting.
Yeah.
And some people,
Sometimes privilege is cool though. I ain't gonna lie.
okay.
No, in fact,
I love you.
Sometimes that shit is.
But I'm just saying, like,
It's true.
You'll see,
like
again, you'll see when you travel, you'll be
Yeah.
like, damn, I think you'll feel it.
No,
and be
you
like,
are a little bit more empathetic than most.
I'm
I may feel it and be like, "Thank God."
I want more
I'll
of this.
take it. Give
No,
me the
you know
privilege.
what'll make you realize? What it will make you appreciate is that motherfucking passport, that blue
blue
passport
I
that
believe
says
it.
the United States on it.
I
You'll be
believe it.
like, thank God I was born in this motherfucking country.
I trust me. I do not take it for granted.
let me tell you, when I was in Cuba for Irma, for the hurricane,
Yeah.
and baby, that blue passport.
They got you out of there.
They did not.
They
we were
didn't.
stuck there, but they allowed us. That was when Americans could not stay in hotels. And they allowed us to sleep in the lobby. They couldn't give us a room because they didn't want to break the law, but they let us sleep in the lobby because they were like, y'all gonna get robbed. It ain't no fucking electricity. It's no nothing in this Airbnb that y'all were staying in trying to have an authentic experience. Bring your American dumbasses in here and sleep on these couches. And like, we were asking about the embassy. We were asking, and they were helping us. We running out of money. They were taking our American dollars, which they weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
But just based off of the fact, we don't want no drama.
We don't want an international incident.
We don't want any drama with y'all people, so here.
Yeah. This is a topic that I feel like this was a broad general one that we kind of spoke on a little bit more. I think at some point we can get a little deeper on this because I had some like truly amazing moments traveling that have changed my life forever. And I would love to at some point in the future we do another episode that's kind of more
After
focused
we take
in.
our trip.
Yeah, that would actually be a good time.
I'm down.
But, you know,
So down.
I appreciate y'all for indulging me on this topic.
This was fun.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun.
And I think that should be one of the first episodes we do if we actually do take a trip. We should come
Not
back and
if,
talk about
when.
it. I'm down.
I don't have no kids and I ain't got no men, so I could go. You just got
I
to
got a lot of planning to do.
Yeah, you got to work it out.
I gotta work it out.
I got unlimited PTO. Let's go.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. This has been Can't Afford Therapy. Like, subscribe, rate, and let us know what you think.